of the Waco City Council on January 21st, 2025 to order at 3:02 p.m. Welcome to the work session of the Waco City Council, and welcome to all the people here in the Bosque Theater Gallery here in beautiful downtown Waco, and also welcome to all the viewers at home watching on the Waco City Cable Channel. Thank you for being here today. I'm Mayor Jim Holmes. I'm joined on the dais here today by our council members, Andrea Bearfield, Alicia Rodriguez, Josh Borderud, George Chase, and our Mayor Pro Tem Darius Ewing. We're going to start the meeting today with a moment of silence. So our first order of business today is recognizing work session speakers. Is there anyone present today who'd like to speak on a work session agenda item? Anyone? Seeing no one is registered to speak.
It looked like we had one hand raised.
Oh, okay. Oh, Andy, right, I do have you. This is on the informal report, I believe, is that right? Okay, yeah. Come on, we will provide an opportunity for everybody to address an agenda item. Just, you've got 3 minutes. Say your name and your address when you get to the podium.
Sure. Y'all each have a map, okay? So y'all each got that. Okay, great. Council members, my name is Andy Patillo, and I'm an attorney at the Beard Colgin Law Firm. I'm also a Waco native, born and raised here, lived here my whole life. We're talking about this corner here, the intersection of Lakeshore and 19th. You've each got a map there. It's an overhead to kind of help give you an idea of this area. And there's a proposed low-income housing tax project that I'll talk to y'all about briefly. But just in terms of who we represent, if you look at this land here, there's approximately a couple hundred acres, 200 acres or so, that's collectively owned by Triad Development. That's Kenneth and Gary Young. Then there's the Sly Charles tract right above that. That is Alice Ogden and her brother Charles Sly. If you move across the 19th Street there, you see Westdale Capital Investors. That's Joe Beard and Andrew Schmeltikoff. And then right next to that is Camp Fimfo, which is the new kind of campgrounds over there. I don't know if y'all been there, but it's a nice campgrounds, and Andrew Schmeltikoff and Joe Beard also have some involvement in that. So that's who we represent. We represent these landowners, and we're in opposition to a proposed tax credit project that is being proposed right there on that Clark-Lyda tract. If you see that kind of in the middle of all that land I just described. This group, they're called the Vecino Group. They're based out of, I think, Missouri. They've done some projects in New York, and they're just now breaking into Texas. They're the ones that are applying for this. And what they do is they partner with local nonprofits when they go into these cities to do that. And what they partnered with here is Friends for Life, which is a great nonprofit that is run by Inez Russell. And I hate to be on the opposite side of her for this because it is a great local nonprofit. But they've got that Clark-Lyda tract and that HEB grocery tract under contract, both 30-acre tracts, so a total of 60 acres. Our concerns are, number one, if you look around here, you've got Camp Fimfo, you've got the baseball complex, the water park, the tennis complex, MCC. We see this as a growing kind of entertainment commercial district. It's kind of the gateway to the city. When you're coming from China Spring and Bosqueville, you come down 19th. There was talks of HEB going in right here, and that was a really exciting project that unfortunately it seems that HEB is no longer interested in. But we still think it's really good developable land for something like that area needs. I think if you look at this map, you'll see there's not a lot of food around here. So grocery stores, commercial development with places to eat and places to shop we think would be perfect for this area. And we're concerned about the impact that a low-income housing project might have on that right in the middle of it. I understand the city needs that. I'm certainly not an anti-tax credit housing person. We need it here in the city. The question is just whether we need it right here. And I know my time's up, so I'll leave with this. 60 acres is a lot of land. And I'm sure you'll probably hear from Inez at some point on the Friends for Life development. She has a lot of plans to develop this into a Friends for Life kind of corporate.
Thank you, Mr. Patil. I think today's, just to give you the timeline, I think we'll talk about it here in a little bit. Today is just the informal report. And on the February 4th meeting, we're going to be talking about it in work session, I believe. And in the February 18th meeting, Andy will actually be voting on that. So as you can return, I hate for you to be here every time, but thank you for your comments there, Mr. Petillo. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on a work session agenda item? There being none, we'll now recess the regular session and convene the work session with the report from the city manager.
Thanks, Mayor, and welcome to all those in attendance. First council meeting of 2025. I want to start the agenda today by saying a special thank you to Miss Mandy Spikes, who works in the convention center and has previously worked in the city secretary's office, and today she's serving the city council, filling in as city secretary here at the meeting. It's not the first time she's done that, but it's the first time I've acknowledged her for doing it publicly, and I just wanted to say, Mandy really is an exemplary employee and shows up each day, no matter where she's showing up to work, to serve the citizens of Waco. So, Mandy, thanks for filling in today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks, Mandy. Appreciate it.
I do have a couple of notes. Sorry, microphone's off a little bit. I do have a couple notes on changes to the agenda today, Council. First, a note on public hearing 2025-015. This item will require a supermajority for approval since it comes to council after a unanimous recommendation for denial from Plan Commission. Also, I think you'll hear from Clint in a few minutes that the applicant has actually requested a withdrawal. Do I remember that right, Deidre? A withdrawal on that item. So you'll be hearing that with a request from the applicant for withdrawal.
Will we be needing a supermajority to approve the withdrawal on that? Or?
No, just
Okay.
on...
Just if we were to overrule the
If we were to
previously made
overrule.
decisions. Great.
Good clarification. Additionally, the airport teams advised me they would like to have Resolution 037 acted upon prior to Resolutions 024 and 025. So the way we're going to handle that is pulling Resolution 037 from the consent agenda and voting on it separately ahead of the consent agenda. Another note, Resolution 2025-052 has special motion language, will need to be pulled from the consent agenda as well. That motion language has been distributed at your places. And lastly, on Resolution 062, we had a slight scrivener's error in the caption. The easement acquisition cost listed in the caption was for $462 million. That's not actually what we need for that easement. $126,000. So we're going to pull that item.
$500 million there.
We're going to pull that item from consent, and the total amount we're seeking is $431,000. That's for the easement cost of $426,000 plus closing cost. The city attorney, I believe, has put a corrected resolution at your places for that item as
City
well.
Manager Ford, just to demonstrate
I have that.
the amount of trust that this council has in you, I was prepared to vote for the full $500 million on that.
I think I have that.
A lot of things for $426 million, so not moving forward at that number. And finally, a note on one of our proclamations tonight. We intended to have a proclamation this evening for the tourism-friendly community. That's been postponed. Our visiting guest from the governor's office is not able to attend due to winter weather travel issues around the state. So we'll bring that back to you at a future council meeting. Informal reports on your agenda today. IR 002 is the one that was referenced a moment ago by our speaker. The IR includes a variety of information in the packet for the tax credit housing program. As the mayor mentioned, we'll be presenting information on each of the submittals at our February 4th council meeting, and then ultimately work towards action on any requests for resolutions at the February 18th meeting. This is the first step in the process, so look forward to having the community engaged at each step along the way. IR 003 provides an update.
So,
Yes, sir.
City Manager Ford, back to that one, there's 4 different projects that we're talking about at this point, right? So we'll be looking at all of them, and I appreciate the speaker's interest, and you have 2 more shots at it here, in the 4th and the 18th.
And for those watching, this is a process we walk through each year. This is not, we don't go out and seek these resolutions of support. They find us each year through the requirements of the state of Texas. In order for these developers to access funds through the state of Texas, they have to receive certain different things, one of which being a resolution of support from the cities in which they develop in. It gets them a number of points on their applications and makes those applications more viable. So this is something the council gets to do each and every year, and we look forward to doing it well again this year.
Is that public information before the comply?
It's in the packet, sir. Yes, sir. We have about, I would say there's probably 60 pages in the packet from the 4 applications. So encourage those in attendance to pull up the packet on our website and find out more. IR 003 provides an update on the progress for the ongoing renovation at the Bledsoe Miller Community Center. We're converting that facility into the Bledsoe Miller Steam Center. Demolition has begun, and real thankful for the hundreds of folks that attended the groundbreaking last week on January 16th. It was a special day. I think everybody that was there got to see a little sneak peek behind the demolition and construction curtain. I think everybody that walked through also got a little inspired about what this next year is going to be, and as we look to open up the facility about a year from now, you know, exciting times. Also exciting because surprisingly we saw construction bids come in over $1 million under budget. So it's nice to have a little contingency as we work through renovation of a building that's got some age to it.
Yeah, I'll just comment, that was a fun event. A bunch of us were there last week, and a lot of energy and a lot of positive thoughts there. And everybody wanted to get involved, everybody excited about the project. It's a federally funded project, it's part of the ARPA funding, so we're at $13.8 million that we're expending for this great facility and great planning. And again, December 25 or January, that'll be done in about a year. And I appreciate particularly Councilmember Bearfield, who's been kind of the energy behind this project, and will continue to be for the next year, I guess forever. But it looks like we're in a good place on the STEAM project.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Bradley, and I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everybody who had some sort of action in the groundbreaking. It was an amazing day. Shout out to Carm's team, shout out to Parks team for making it an open, under construction building look cute. It was really amazing, and so I'm incredibly appreciative to all the work that went into that. You know, always shout out to Deidre, our deputy city manager, for her work behind this project with me and so many other staff. But I just want to be continually grateful for the work that is happening, because our residents and our community deserves this.
Exciting. Another facility update in informal report 004. We've got a couple of fire station projects going on around the city. Fire Station 15 on Ritchie Road is now substantially complete. For those of our neighbors that have seen it or not, drive down Ritchie Road, take a look at it. It was substantially complete as of a couple weeks ago. So furniture installation's underway, final touches are underway, and we think we'll be moving in at some point in February, on time and under budget.
Come on.
A lot of kudos to our facilities, fire, and other city teams who had a hand in this project. It's kind of our first big installation out on that end of town, first visible, other than the water tower, the first visible city facility for our neighbors down on that end of town, and we'll certainly see some reduced response times for emergency calls in that area.
Our city manager and assistant city manager, Ryan Holt, I know he's been shepherding this process. Derek from facilities and others have done a great job in getting this under budget, on schedule, and soon fully operational. So we're excited about, I think, doing our ribbon cutting and hose connecting in March. Looking forward to it.
Be there.
I plan to attend for sure, yeah.
I'm certain. Our other fire station project we wanted to update you on is Fire Station 4. It's a relocation project from from Spate Avenue near Baylor over to LaSalle Avenue. This is a project that's been been underway for a little while now.
Yes.
It's currently under schematic design that was completed a couple months ago, and we're in the construction document phase. We anticipate being in for permit review in February on this $7 million project, which hopefully gets us completed with construction around fall of 2026 and open in winter 2026. As a reminder, this station, we acquired this site back in 2021 to move a 60-year-old fire station from Spate Avenue, undersized station, certainly was needing some TLC. We decided to move it to LaSalle to really do a couple things. First, to put our firefighters in the best position to reduce response times, and also give them a station that was appropriately sized and designed for fighting fires now. Additionally, the council chose this location. It was at a time when the LaSalle Corridor Plan was just getting completed, and the council felt like, the staff feels like, we wanted to start that corridor plan off with a really nice city facility on LaSalle. And so what you're seeing here is the mission-style fire station, which we think will fit the corridor well and set a tone for the LaSalle corridor that is really appropriate.
I'm excited about the fire station number 4, since we found out we were going to move it there on 9th and LaSalle, between 8th and 9th and LaSalle, which will be next to the Community Projects Inc. building, which is a mission-style building. And my understanding is the fire station is going to kind of resemble that building as well. So we're all excited about what that fire station will bring to that area and the beautiful building that will be there. And we're excited for the firefighters to be our neighbors, because my office is right there. So hi, neighbors.
Bradley, question. When I was a Baylor student living south of campus, that used to be my fire station and polling precinct and all kinds of things. Will that still retain the sailor bear with the fire hat on the fire engines?
Oh, that's a great, Ryan, Chief Walker, we keeping Sailor Bear on the truck? Okay, we are, all right.
Yes, all right. God bless.
I've got a vest with a Sailor Bear, so I don't want to have to be off-brand.
I've been invited there to the old fire station there on Spate by the firefighters, and I've gone in there, and they have cooked for me, and I have wondered how in the world do they fit in this small, but they've made it and have been very successful at it, but they do need more room, and I'm excited for it to be on LaSalle. And like I said, my office is going to be right across the street, so I'm going to have some good neighbors.
The other thing you'll have at that station that I want to talk for a moment about relates to Resolution 039 on the agenda this evening. The front, and you kind of see it in this image here where the flags are, we're actually going to have a piece of art designed and installed at the front of this station. So Resolution 039 is a resolution to engage with Creative Waco to lead that process of design and selection of art, and we anticipate that art piece being dedicated around the same time as the station's construction is completed. This piece of art will cost about $75,000, and Creative Waco will be given roughly a 10% management fee for helping select the artist and install the work. So appreciate Creative Waco's engagement. I think that'll be a nice addition to the station project as well. We have 6 public hearings tonight on the agenda. Clint Peters, our Director of Development Services, will provide an overview of those, I hope, during the work session, if we have time. If not, we'll do those at the beginning of the business session at 6 o'clock. We have 49 resolutions on your agenda, and I'm going to highlight a few of them, unfortunately, starting the year off right. I just think there's some really good work the staff's put together on these resolutions. First off, we've got resolutions 021 and 022. These are the amendments to the Master Development Agreement and to the TERS 4 agreement for the Floyd Casey development. I've asked Jeremy Pacina with Economic Development to join us at the 6 o'clock to provide an overview of the proposed changes. So he'll walk us through that for a few minutes at the 6 o'clock session.
That's something else I'm excited about. Today's an exciting city council day for me. We've been waiting for this for quite some time, but all along knowing it was coming, and so we're excited about that as well. But it says here District 3 on 21, but I thought it was District 2. On my
Definitely should be District 2.
Yes.
I don't have that in front of me, but I'm trusting you're correct. I apologize about that error.
I said, okay, I didn't know I had moved. I'm Josh's neighbor now, District 3, but excited about this area and what we're proposing to do in that area, and to acknowledge the Hispanic names and streets and our heritage of the Hispanic community here in Waco. That's a first
It's a first.
for the city of Waco. And that's another reason I'm excited about it, but it's something that we've long wanted, and we finally had, and I'm so glad it happened in District 2, not District 3. Sorry? It happened
No
in
shots at District 3.
2.
No shots at District 3. Just supporting our own over here, you know?
But excited about these two resolutions. Excited about what's happening all over Waco, but more excited about it's happening as well in District 2. And excited for the Hispanic forefathers that we've had here in Waco that have always been working and honoring their progress and always wanting to do and bring up the city of Waco. And so I'm glad that we're finally going to be able to recognize the names. And I'm so happy that it's in District 2. No disrespect.
None taken.
Thank you.
All right. The next thing I wanted to highlight, we actually have 4 grant applications on the agenda this evening. I'm not going to walk through all of them. The resolutions 40, 41, 45, and 46. But I did want to highlight, this is 4 applications that represent about $1 million of state and federal funds we're seeking. And each one of these grant applications we pursue each year take a lot of time and attention to hunt for them, to get them. And so I want to say a thanks to the staff from many departments that work to diligently compete for money, as well as ensure compliance once we get the money. And we don't talk about it a lot, but we receive about $30 million of grant funds from state and federal sources each year. It creates a substantial amount of value to the taxpayer, and so we have 4 of those on the agenda tonight. Certainly want to say a special thanks to Vicki Hoffman in finance, as well as a number of other team members that go out and hunt, as well as ensure compliance on these grants.
Yeah, I'll comment on those. Are you talking about 45 and 46? And then also I'm flipping down to the TxDOT $5 million one? Or are you going to comment on that one too? 53? Yeah, no, I'm trying to.
There's a bunch
keep
of
up
them.
My numbers. I'll just comment on, particularly at 45 and 46, the sidewalk deal. And again, it's a grant. It's a 4-to-1 kind of a 20% match of a federal program, and it's quite a bit of sidewalk on Clay from 1st Street to 8th Street, and then on 4th Street between Clay and Webster. A lot of sidewalk getting done with federal funding in what's called the carbon reduction program. So I don't know, when you think of carbon reduction, you think of, I guess, electric vehicles, but then sidewalks falls into there too. So I want to also applaud and commend our staff for reading through all these federal programs and state programs that you might be talking carbon reduction, but it's paying for quite a bit of sidewalk here and saving the money, saving almost $1 million to the city of Waco. Similar program on number 53, which is a street, the TxDOT project of $5 million, fixing Dallas Street from Elm West across Waco Drive over to Ashburn. And again, it's a $5 million project where we're matching only 20%. So these federal and state programs, you have to be on the lookout for them, and we're fitting into these well and hitting our primary priorities of infrastructure repair and public safety on a lot of these that we see in the agenda today. But yeah, thanks, City Manager Ford, for bringing those to our attention.
I wanted to say something about Resolution 031, if I'm not jumping ahead. I wanted to ask, is Jonathan Cook here?
Yep.
I see him. Is he going to make a presentation on this particular resolution? My question would be, since it's the track and the track next to the Floyd Casey development that we're underway, I was just wondering if it was going to go in line with what we're doing there. Is it going to go hand in hand? Is it going to go at the same time? Because I know there's a lot of things that we want done in the little park area across from the Floyd Casey football stadium, as it were, across the street on the same side as the track field. I was just wondering if that was going to go at the same time that we're working on the park for.
So Jonathan is going to spend hopefully about 15 to 20 minutes showing you the updated renderings and conceptual plans for the track, as well as the all-inclusive park and everything, the properties you're talking about here in a few minutes. And so you're going to get a real good deep dive on that project here in a few moments, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
It is a work session item.
Okay, well, okay.
George, yeah, party foul here.
George, I don't know what it was.
Party, and we're going to dance up here? Go ahead. I told you it was going to be a fun day here at the council.
You called it.
It's on the resolutions. City Manager Ford, continue.
The next set of resolutions I wanted to spend a couple minutes on all relate to our street work program. It's resolutions 48, 50, and 51. You're starting to see significant dollars being spent at the council's direction as part of the Better Streets Waco program. And we're going to show you a couple maps here in a moment of where that street work is taking place. And I think for District 1, 2, and 4, you'll be pleased to see how our street work's coming into the core of Waco. Because in past years, of course, we've had a lot more work on the edges in our preservation program. Well, now we're getting into rehabilitation work that's happening in the core. So each of those red streets indicated here on Resolution 048 is where we'll be doing geotechnical coring. We're going to poke about 380 holes in our streets to determine how much asphalt's left in them, what the base material is made out of, so that we can come up with the best strategy on rehabilitation on these segments. On Resolution 50, up next, it's a resolution for surveying and engineering work on more than 20 segments in District 1. And so living in District 1, each one of these streets, those are going into design and engineering now, so that we can hopefully fund them in the CIP shortly with an estimated 12-month construction on those rehabilitation on these segments. On Resolution 051, something similar for District 2. Pop that map up there. We've got about $5.8 million in District 2 planned, and this is, again, the design and engineering work that should be complete over the next couple of months. And assuming we get our fiscal year CIP approved in the next month or so, these are the streets that will be improved in District 2. Again, more than 20 segments throughout the district. I showed those three resolutions and those three maps just to indicate kind of where this year's street program is aimed. Well, obviously, we have other streets we'll be working on in other districts, but you can see the staff's listening to the council direction, which says, hey, bring us more neighborhood streets and begin to address the streets in the core of Waco.
Thank you for that, Bradley and staff and street department. Much appreciated.
All right, you got 5 ordinances on the agenda today. I'll highlight one. It's ordinance 069, its first reading, to consider repealing Section 18131 regarding the mandatory retirement age for City of Waco police and fire personnel. The Civil Service Act and the Texas Local Government Code no longer provides for a mandatory retirement age. So this section in our ordinance is being repealed to comply with state law. Currently, city ordinance actually sets a mandatory retirement age for police officers and firefighters at 65. So this will remove that requirement, and the remaining 4 ordinances are on for second reading. Mayor and council, that concludes my report for today, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions for City Manager Ford on the business session agenda? We'll now move to the review of the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes Resolution 2025-020 through Resolution 2025-068. Are there any items the council would like to remove from the consent agenda? There are 3 that will be voted on separately. Number 37 is going to be voted on separately, number 52, and number 62. So the consent agenda will include Resolutions 2025-020 through Resolution 2025-068, except for Resolutions 2025-037, 2025-052, and 2025-062. Next item on the agenda is work session items 2025-005 through 2025-009. City Manager Ford, would you please introduce the first work session?
First up, we've got Chief Scott Walker coming up to provide a overview of 2024 at the fire department, as well as speak to our 2025, the plannings and priorities that he has for improving fire services in Waco. Chief?
Thank you, City Manager Ford. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I will say real quick, our firefighters assigned to Station 4 really appreciate that new station as well. They've been very passionate about that, so thank you. So today I am here to provide to you with our 2024 year in review and our 2025 upcoming priorities. 2024 was a busy year for the fire department, and we wanted to showcase some of our more significant accomplishments throughout the year. So first up, we were able to incorporate 2 Lucas chest compression devices into our service delivery model. These devices provide endless, high-quality CPR to a patient in cardiac arrest. This is important because we know one of the most important factors in treatments we can do is to provide good CPR. So far, these devices have already yielded 4 significant results, with 4 people having spontaneous return of pulses prior to arrival to the hospital. So these devices are saving lives. We're very excited about having these now into the service delivery model, and we will continue to look for more opportunities to purchase more and get them in the system. We focused on firefighter health and wellness throughout this year as well. Obviously, firefighters are our most valuable resource and asset we have within the fire department, and we want to need to take care of them. We formed a health and wellness committee whose job is really to research and look for new ways to improve upon what we're already doing as far as firefighter health. For instance, implementing, creating a new procedure on gross decontamination after a fire. What this is, after firefighters go into a fire, they're covered with carcinogens and soot from that building. We want to scrub those off of those members, have them package up those turnouts or their firefighting clothes, put them on the top of the engine, and then return to the station to put in their new clean second set into the apparatus. This prevents them from really being exposed endlessly within the cab to carcinogens. Again, this will save lives. They're working on that procedure. We also have been working with our peer support team. So firefighters we know are being challenged with mental health issues throughout the year from things they see. Peer support team are firefighters helping firefighters. Sometimes that's the best way to have the conversation. They can certainly relate to what other members have went through. So we are coordinating and collaborating with the peer support team to make sure we are supporting them as an organization and in their needs. A couple things specifically we added with this was the FireStrong website. So this is a website that has a multitude of resources for firefighters to self-access, from marital support or marital issues, financial support, grief, depression, anxiety, and many other tools on there, mindability, exercises they can help the firefighters. So we were able to secure that and make that now as a resource to our firefighters through our peer support team. We also introduced the high stress incident tag. So what this is anytime our crews go on a call, that we've identified or they feel is a high-stress incident. For instance, a child death or traumatic incident to a child, multiple patients in a vehicle, a fire fatality. Those can have an impact on people and human beings and firefighters. Those actually have now a trigger that myself, my executive team, our peer support team members are texted, and that triggers the follow-up by the peer support members with that crew later on that shift, that next day, to just check in how they're doing. And if they need help, get them connected to the resources available. So these are just some of the things we've been doing as far as firefighter health and wellness, and we're really proud of those efforts so far. We also want to highlight the PFAS-free foam transition. So I'm proud to say the Waco Fire Department has completely eliminated PFAS foam in our service delivery model. So out of Waco Airport, our ARF trucks do not have PFAS-containing foam. Our hazmat teams do not use PFAS-containing foam. One of the few in the country that have led this effort, so something we should be proud of. If you see foam out there by our crews, no, it is not, does not contain PFAS. It is safe to use for our environment and for our people. Also, we'll want to note that L3 Airport is not a facility. They do have still PFAS foam within their suppression systems, but I was just out there a few weeks ago. They are working in a transition plan now and anticipate within a year that being eliminated.
Chief Walker, could you just take a quick second to educate the crowd and those watching on the importance of why it matters that we don't have PFAS foam and the negative impacts that has if we were to continue using it?
Mayor, Council Member, yes, I will. Thank you for the opportunity. So obviously we know PFAS is something that's in the news right now as a forever chemical. We're concerned about it across many areas of our environment. As it relates to firefighters, PFAS is in the foam that we've used and is effective, but unfortunately it is a cancer-causing agent. The Waco Fire Department did experience a line-of-duty death related to what has been probably believed to be caused by exposure to PFAS foam, and one of our members assigned to an airport. So this is a life-saving change for us, but it's also good for our community and our environment, and we're proud to lead the way to eliminate that from our service delivery model. Next up, we have been working to be proactive in our fleet management. We appreciate the support Mayor and Council have given over the last several years in the City Manager's Office to get our fleet in a healthy place. We want to make sure we continue that, not let it slip back. So we meet quarterly with fleet here in the city and to make sure we're thinking strategically and planning for what our needs are. We have our 25-year replacement plan for our heavy apparatus, so we know each year what we need to buy, and if we buy on that schedule, we will continue to maintain a healthy fleet. We've also developed that same plan on our light duty or rolling stock, so we know, vehicles, pickup trucks, battalion chief rigs, those types of things as well. Again, it's good planning, but it also helps on the budget process. We're not going to have to come and ask you for multiple millions of dollars to buy apparatus. We'll smooth that out over the life cycle of our apparatus. Something else I'm very proud of we were able to accomplish was the radio channel naming convention. So we know oftentimes in a firefighter fatality, we go back far enough, communication was the culprit or the cause often, or at least a contributing factor in that fatality. When I got here, we did have some issues with the way our radio channels were set up and firefighters accessing them. There was a little bit more complexity than I believe should have been in that. It was something the members brought up very early on to me as a challenge. We were able to step back, reassess, and all of the issues brought forward, we were able to come up with a new plan. It is a simple plan. Firefighters now know what channel they need to be on, and they'll be on the channel, and so far, we're getting very positive feedback about that. So we're happy we were able to address that need and a real need for us. We talked and heard about Fire Station 15, the construction. We appreciate facilities moving that along and getting that ready for us. We've been doing the same thing on our side. We have the apparatus purchased, we've hired our members, we've trained our members, we've promoted for the station, and we've assigned those folks. So we will be ready, as soon as we get the keys to that station, we'll be ready to move in and start serving that community out of Station 15. And then we also completed the consultant assessment. So in the very early stages of last year, the city contracted with Kramer Associates to really do a complete assessment of the fire department, top to the bottom, and both left and right. Our apparatus, our stations, our service delivery, our staffing levels, and so that consultant agreement was completed after my arrival here, and so we are now using that as a guiding document to think strategically. When we make asks for if we need more people, and need more service delivery model changes, it is a guide for us, so that is completed. And then finally, obviously, we brought on a new fire chief, that's me, and I came on board here in August within the Waco Fire Department. So now I want to shift gears a little bit. We want to look at our activity levels. So this chart captures the last 5 years. It captures the total activity level of our responses we went on, broken down also then by fire, by EMS, and by miscellaneous. The next slide will break it down a little bit more granular, but just to give you a big picture look here. You can see the 4 years leading up to 2024, we were increasing year over year. That is typical in the fire service, about 2 to 6% is what we'd expect to see. Interesting, in 2024, we had a reduction. We had a reduction of about 4% overall, had a reduction in fires by about 19%, and EMS incidents by about 5%. So we're looking at exactly where those reductions came from. A couple factors are contributing to this, though. Our wildland season was less than it normally is. That is dependent upon rains and the growth of the brush out there, so we were fortunate that we didn't have a big wildland season, so that is a reduction in some of the numbers. On our EMS side, AMR made some changes in their dispatch protocols that did reduce a few of our responses we were going on. We've since worked with AMR. Those are responses that we should go on and need to go on, and we've corrected that. So that will probably go back up next year. And then finally, we'll see what the trend line holds, but we hope that our community risk reduction efforts are contributing to this. You know, our priority and our goal is to eliminate the emergency from ever happening. We know that's the best emergency to have, is one that never happens. That's how we protect lives and property in our community. That's done through community outreach, through fire investigations, through fire inspections, to fire code enforcement. So we'll see if that trend holds, but we want to give credit to the hard work, as you'll see in a few slides, and some of the work they've done in that group. So that is just a big picture of what our activity levels look like. So this slide, as I said, is a little more granular detail of the calls for service over the last 5 years. Column on the right is 2024 numbers. You can see structure fires, and these are just structure fire incidents that crews responded to. We were at 186, again down from 222. Our other fires, which is car fires, dumpster fires, grass fires, 366, down from the previous year. Our emergency medical incidents, which is the lion's share of what we do, it's about 65% of our activity level, was down to 13,596. Again, I talked about potentially the AMR changes did have an impact on that. Vehicle collisions were down, 1,760. Hazmat incidents were down. Technical rescues were up by about 20% to a total of 36. And then miscellaneous, which does include service calls, it includes electrical lines down, it includes gas calls, hazardous materials types calls. If someone calls for a smoke alarm or smoke with their battery beeping and we go, it would include in there. Also would include if we do a standby at a community event, our crews do count that. So that's why that number is somewhat large, but there's a lot included in that. And that was up to 4,963 in 2024. I did include the fire incident heat map, and this is a way to visualize our data. And so as you would expect, you know, this is just structure fires. You would expect those to be in more of our urban core area. Obviously more density, more building density, people density typically is going to cause more fire incidents. So on this map, the way to read it is green is the first level, then it goes yellow, orange, red. And so you can see where fires are occurring across the city. And this is important for us to know that, and it's also important for us to know because, like, for instance, the red and orange areas, we want to really dig into in our community risk reduction efforts, why are those fires happening in those areas? Is this something where industrial area or commercial area where maybe fire life safety systems aren't being maintained, or there's a fire code opportunity to improve there? Is this an area of residential area where maybe we have young kids that unfortunately might be playing with matches? Can we do some community education in the schools to address that? Or is this something even that really bright red spot? Do we have someone that is an arsonist in those areas? We can look into that and then work with our fire investigators and our Waco PD department to make sure that's not the case. So that's how we use this information. It really helps to visualize your data, and that's why I included this in the map for you. So now I want to change gears a little bit to response times. So in the fire service, the response time is a metric we use. It is more of an output than an outcome metric, but it is a guide that we use to really measure our performance each day. So we do use the NFPA standard, that's the National Fire Protection Association standard. It's a 90th percentile standard, so it's not an average. It is how often, the goal is to hit those numbers 90% of the time. It's a much higher standard, but it really is a more accurate standard to assess your performance. So for fire response times, the standard is to arrive there within 6 minutes and 20 seconds from when a call is received at our dispatch center to when the first engine company arrives on scene of that fire. The way that breaks down is the first minute we allot to our dispatch center to receive the call, process the call, and dispatch a crew. A minute 20 for our crews to receive the call, get out to the fire truck, get their firefighting clothes on, and then start the truck moving to the incident. And then the remaining 4 minutes is the travel time to the incident. And that is the standard we hold ourselves to. So if you look in the middle horizontal there on the chart, you can see the past 4 years, and the percentage by each year is the overall percentage for that year. Happy to point out that in 2024, we did outperform the previous 3 years, 82%. And while 90% is our goal, certainly, and we will always work to strive to that, 82% is a good percentage. I can tell you across the fire service that most people would be proud to hit 82%. So we are overall doing well, but again, we'll always strive for that 90 percentile. And then if you look at the chart just below it to visualize it again, the red flat line is the 90% standard. You can see how each of the 4 years by the different color lines fluctuate throughout the months, but how we performed each month, month over month. Next, we'll talk about EMS response times. As I talked about, that's about 65% what we do, so it is important that we're measuring that as well on our performance. Again, we use the NFPA standard here. The only difference is this is a 6-minute response time. Where we lose the 20 seconds is in that, what we call that turnout time from when the crew is notified by dispatch to when they get the truck moving. We lose 20 seconds because we don't have to put on our firefighting clothes. We can get on the truck quicker. And so that's why it's 6 minutes. So you can see again, the 4 years there, pretty consistent, 76 to 77% across the 4 years. So we're holding steady. Again, we have some opportunity here that we'll continue to work on to bring that up. Overall, that is probably pretty consistent with the fire service. Again, we have over 13,000 calls, so it's much harder to make an impact on those numbers. You have to really have high performance to raise that up. But our goal will be to hit the 90%. We'll look at, are we losing any time in the dispatch process? Are we losing any time to getting our firefighters on that truck and get moving? Or is it simply we have activity levels such that a truck is already on a call when another call happens in their first due or the primary response area, and it's an activity level. So we'll continue to assess and look and make recommendations on how to improve that. Now I want to look at our community risk reduction efforts. This is where the fire service is really trending to. Really, this is that preventing the emergency from ever happening. And so we do this through our fire investigations, our fire inspectors, or our fire code enforcement, and then our community outreach efforts. And it's really the 3 E's: engineering, enforcement, and education is what we call it. And so you can look at the different categories we've captured as our output metrics. So public education events in 2024, you can see 394 different events throughout that year. That was an increase over 2023, but a significant increase over the previous years. And this is where we want to really put our energy. I can tell you the Waco firefighters are committed to this community, are passionate about it. You see it with the Holiday Lights truck. You see it in all the different events we participate in. And this is where we can make real impacts with the community, helping from the youngest of kids to the average age person or even our seniors. They all have different needs, different risks, but we want to, and we can address all those with those groups through our community outreach. Our fire inspections, 1,276 in 24, down a little bit from 2023, but you'll see the number right below it, and then the bottom category, permits issued. Those all correlate. If people don't apply for a new permit, obviously there's no plan review. If they don't apply for a new permit, there's not an inspection, which would be included in those inspections. So while those numbers are down, they do make sense why they're down when it's related to construction projects. Fire investigations, we had 94 in 2024, down from 2023. This is a metric we want to be down. Less fires mean less fire investigations, so that's actually a positive trend for us, and we'll continue to monitor that. And so not all fires get investigated. Sometimes if it's more of a minor fire, our fire crews can do the actual investigation and determination of the cause. So this is just responses by our fire investigators to those incidents. And then arrests, while we were at 3 for 2024, so up a little bit from maybe our norm other than 2020. And while it's unfortunate when we have to arrest somebody, the reality is if we're arresting somebody, that means somebody's committing arson. If we're making that arrest, arson is a risk to our community, to life and property, and those arrests need to be made. Arson is a very serious crime that often people do not realize exactly what and the risk to our community. So while we hope to never have to arrest anybody, if that's what we have to do to stop that, we will. Next category, there are citations issued at 22 in 2024. Up again from the previous years. Obviously, this is fire code enforcement, and so we certainly always lead with education and working collaboratively with our business partners out there to make sure their systems are being tested and are in compliance. And last resort is a citation issued, and I can assure you it is a last resort. But if we have to use that resort, it is important that we make sure these systems are in place and are functioning properly. Working fire alarm and life safety systems keep our visitors, our residents, and our firefighters safe. And so we will use a citation if we have to. And then the last one is the permits issued. Again, I talked about it, relates up to the inspections and reviews, 373 issued, down from 2023, but all those connected. It's simply less people applied for a permit for a fire suppression system. So now we talk about key outcomes, and in the world of data, right, we have inputs, outputs, and truly the outcomes. And outputs are good, but outcomes are what we want. And so we're going to continue to work at identifying what those outcomes that we want to capture to demonstrate to you and to our community. But these are 4 where we started this year. So you can see in 2024, certainly proud that of our outcomes, civilian fire injuries is 0. Civilian fire deaths, 0. That is the outcomes we're seeking in everything that we do, and this can tell us that our community outreach efforts and our fire investigations and our fire code enforcement and our training of our firefighters is working when we can get results like that. So that will be our goal, to maintain that at that level for you and for our community. Our structural fires, 186 structural fires in 2024, again down. Talked a little bit about that already. Again, that's a metric we do want to see come down, and hopefully through our community risk reduction efforts, we'll continue that trend. And then lastly, our firefighter physicals at 188. This is a metric we want to see up. Firefighter physicals, we provide an opportunity for all of our firefighters to have an NFPA compliant physical. This is a very, I'd say, rigorous physical, and we want to make sure that we are catching potential cancer, potential cardiac events, or any other type of health issue in our firefighters early, so that we can treat that and get them the care and keep them healthy and strong. So we don't have a mandatory required physical for all employees. If you're hired prior to 2010, it's not required, so we make it voluntary for that group. Very proud that this year we had 188 people. Many of those did volunteer and did participate. So we want to see that continue to grow. So these are some of the outcomes we're looking for, and we'll continue to report to you. And then the emergency management group does work and fall under the fire department, so we want to highlight their work. I do just want to point out that E.M. Durker and his team have done a great job with this recent weather events we've been experiencing, planning and preparing. We're collaborating, coordinating the whole city effort, so I do want to give them recognition for that. But they were busy as well in 2024. They did hire a new assistant emergency manager coordinator and a new radio operations supervisor. Both those individuals have been key to our success. They have been very valuable additions to our team. They implemented a new weather tracking and radar analysis system, and couldn't have been more timely with the weather we've had. They've been able to use that to forecast and plan out really over a week ahead of time and really start refining as we get day by day closer to the event. So that's worked out well. They've upgraded their mobile command unit. Again, this is important. If we have an event, a large-scale event, we have a place for a unified command. If we have an event that goes on for multiple operational periods, we now have a place to work from. It has camera feeds. It has a camera on a boom, so we can get video into the command post. So that's a nice addition to our service delivery. They've created a 5-year training and exercise plan. And this is important because in emergency management, this is one of the key things, is to train and exercise and prepare us so we're ready if and when we have some type of a disaster or emergency. And so that plan will be something they'll use as their guide. They delivered over 800 hours of training in 2024, and they participated in 8 partner exercises. They work with our different ISDs, our other communities around us, other emergency managers, and that's key because really in this world, communication, collaboration, coordination is key to success and a regional impact. And then finally, they did have 2 of their members over there were accepted into the Incident Support Task Force for the state. This will be good because they can go help communities when they have needs, learn and gain experience, and then bring that back here to the Waco area. And then looking forward for emergency management, they're going to continue that increased coordination with internal and external partners. They're going to continue to expand upon their training and exercise program. They're going to implement a new EOC management software. This is a nice addition for us. Again, EOCs, if there's a major event in this region, they're all going to be up and operating. We want to make sure we have situational awareness consistent across the region, make sure any needs are being communicated, and this is how we'll do that with this type of a management software in the EOC. They're going to maintain and really update their hazardous mitigation plan. This is what is our plan if we have an emergency. This is how we ensure that we are ready as a community and as a city. And they're going to strengthen and expand upon their public-private partnerships via their LEPC. That is your connection with your different public safety agencies, your business community, your school districts. This is a requirement under the EPA that communities are prepared and ready for disaster, and we're going to really reinforce that. E.M. Durker has been already scheduling and coordinating meetings with that group. So one last slide, and I'll finish up here. So for 2025, for the fire department primarily, the direction I've given to the team is that we're going to be proactive. We're going to be looking ahead, thinking strategically, looking at what not just today's needs, but tomorrow's needs, make sure we're prepared and ready for that. What does the next level look like? How do we move forward? How do we improve upon what we already have? And that's the approach we're going to take. We're going to review and revise the Waco Fire Department vision, mission, and value statement. It's important that we know what we're doing today, where we're going to go, and what the values we're going to use to drive us. And so I want to make sure we all agree upon that and then use that every day in our interactions. Professional development is critically important, that we're preparing tomorrow's leaders today, mentoring people, developing people, sharing clear expectations, showing people and giving them a path for vertical development up into those roles that they want to aspire to. So we want to make sure that that is a priority for us. Our emergency medical service delivery, I do believe there's opportunity to take that to the next level, so I've tasked our operations chief to really assess our current level and then and also look at where can we go, where do we need to go, where does our community need us to go, and put together a concept and a proposed plan that then we could use to really lead us into the future. Similarly, in our dispatch center, I've asked our deputy chief, or executive deputy chief Bergeson, to really assess that operations center to see, are we making sure we're getting calls dispatched within that 60 seconds I mentioned. Is there opportunity to provide a higher level of training to our dispatchers? And so we're going to assess that as well. And then bring on board a modern testing and selection process. I mentioned in my 90-day review, we use a process that's about 2 decades old. It's not a civil service test, not really designed for today's modern firefighter. And so we want to make sure we're using a process that includes behavioral and cognitive testing. We want to use an online process so our reach can be much wider, make sure we're getting the best candidates for the Waco Fire Department, and include also an online interview process into the overall process. And then fire prevention or fire code management. Just like on emergency service delivery, we want to make sure that, and I've tasked our deputy chief over that section to look at, are we inspecting the buildings that need to be inspected? Are our target hazards being inspected annually like they're required to be? Are our life safety systems having their annual tests done by the third-party companies that they're required to be? And so we're going to look at and really assess that, identify where any gaps might exist, and then where are opportunities to improve upon, and then put together a plan and bring those forward. And then finally, in addition to what I already mentioned for OEM, want them to look at the regional radio system. We have a very robust system here that police departments, fire departments, park rangers, ISDs all use. We want to make sure that system is supported and the infrastructure is a plan to maintain that infrastructure, make sure that it's an equitable system so that one entity is carrying the burden or load. So we really want to assess that structure as well and just bring forward any potential solutions or recommendations on how we can improve upon it. That does conclude my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great presentation, Chief Walker. Do anybody in council have any questions for Chief? Comments? I'll just say that public safety is priority number one for me and this council, and I appreciate your leadership, Chief Walker. I know you're new on the job. It seems like you've been here a while. You've got a great passion for what you're doing. I can tell by the way you're presenting here. But we're lucky in this city to have great leadership, both in our police department with Chief Victorian and also with you, Chief Walker, so I appreciate that. We strive to be best in class here, and I know you lead a great force. There's great leadership there. We have I believe we have great facilities here. As we talked about earlier, we're putting in 2 new fire stations here in the near future. I'm a great believer in having great equipment. You have to have your force well equipped, and I think we have state-of-the-art fire engines across most of the, or if not all, I hate to say most, because there might be somebody at risk there, but no, we've got new fire trucks all over the place, and great apparatus. I like the way you're doing self-assessment here. I think it's great. I know we got it just as you came on, and you're absorbing that, and the KPIs here, the key performance indicators here, are great and very meaningful. The trend analysis year over year is, I love to see that kind of information. And I love your passion for data analysis, because I think that's how we get better. Great ROI, as I tell everybody, the return on investment we're getting from our fire department is fantastic with the ISO 1 rating, which you didn't even talk about, which I think is another great aspect of lowering home insurance for our citizens. And our response times, which you did talk about, and our efficiencies that we have in the department. So great report, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the Waco Fire Department. And again, welcome to Waco. But what, 4 months, 5 months? How long have you been here now?
6 months.
6 months. Great. Appreciate all the work you're doing. I just have one question, and you don't have to go into it too deep, but with all of the Southern California Altadena fires particularly, and I know that we're not involved in that, but is there, and I did get this question from a couple of residents, is there any kind of readiness that we have for a generally similar situation that you can think of. I mean, thank goodness we don't have the same issues they have with the Santa Ana winds and the dry, a lot of dry, but in drought times, I think we're well prepared also. Maybe just a little bit of comment on that.
Sure, Mayor, thank you for the question. So I would say we are prepared, but we have opportunity. Myself and Chief El Selka just last week drove the Cameron Park area to really get a visual assessment. Obviously, there's some urban interface areas up there that we want to make sure we have a plan. One of the priorities not listed in here, because there's more than just that, obviously, that I've assigned to him, is to assign our wildland team to really do a survey of the city and create a process where every year we will survey the city, look for those areas that the urban interface is going to be the most threat. Also, part of that is developing an alternative water source. Assistant City Manager Holt has made this a priority as well. And so looking at potentially, for instance, 4 locations around the city where if we could, out of the lake, out of a river, where if we needed water or more than the system could keep up with, we could draft or pump out of that. And we're going to put together a plan, what equipment we would need to have that as part of our resiliency plan. So, well, I'd say I believe we are prepared, and we're having those discussions. We're going to continue to even be more prepared, and annually we will be looking at each year, because it can change.
Yep.
Where the growth is this year may not be where it is next year. And do we need to provide any type of community education on defensible spaces? There is information out there on Firewise programs at the national level we want to start pushing out as well. So if our residents can make sure their home area around their home is safe and has a defensible space, and we have a plan to get in there quickly with the resources we need, and we have a plan for backup or resilient water supply, that is what we're working on currently.
I appreciate you, Chief Walker. Thanks for the report. The next item of business is work session 2025-006. City Manager Ford.
Sure. That's a discussion of our Waco Tourism Rebranding Project. We've got a team here today that's going to join us at the table, discuss this. Monica Settlemeyer, Director of Communications and Marketing, as well as Hannah Anderson, our Administrative Officer for the CVB, along with Emily Harris, a former Waco resident, I hear, who's our account executive with our marketing agency of record, Madden Preprint Media. This project you're going to hear about tonight is an extension of the city branding initiative that we took on in 2023, except it exclusively focuses on tourism and aims at redefining and enhancing Waco's identity as a premier travel destination. So look forward to the presentation. Monica.
Great. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Monica Settlemeyer, as Bradley had said, Director of Communications and Marketing. And we are excited today to present this tourism branding project. As you may recall, as Bradley had shared, the city adopted a comprehensive rebrand back in October of 23. While this initiative focused on establishing the guidelines for our city government, it only touched briefly on the tourism aspect. It was not designed really as our full-scale rebrand for Waco tourism. In December of 2024, an operational shift occurred with the transition of the Convention Center's management to ASM Global. This change allowed the CVB staff to dedicate their efforts to promoting Waco as the premier tourism destination. So with this renewed focus, we recognized an opportunity to reassess Waco's current tourism identity and strategies. So to move forward, a core team was formed, including CVB staff, city management, members of the Madden Media team, and myself. And together we identified key needs and outlined what our next steps would be. This collaborative effort laid the foundation for the development of a comprehensive tourism rebrand, and we're excited to share this vision with you today. So now Hannah will explain kind of what the project goal is and what our agenda is for today's presentation.
Thanks, Monica. The goal of this project is to redefine and enhance Waco's identity as a premier travel destination through the creation of impactful visual and verbal branding, including a new name and logo for the Waco CVB. The goal is to spotlight Waco's unique attractions, rich cultural history, and vibrant community. By embracing our history, diverse offerings, and forward-thinking vision, this project will position Waco as a must-visit destination for travelers from all backgrounds and expand our visibility in the travel market. Today, we'll outline the tourism rebranding plan. Emily with Madden Media will share the overall vision for the project, provide an introduction to the agency and the work they have done with the CVB team so far, detail the branding process and scope of work, and present the project timeline and deliverables. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Emily Harris, Senior Account Director with Madden Media, who will guide us through the next steps of this exciting initiative.
Thank you so much. Hannah. As Hannah said, I am the Senior Account Director at Madden Media, specifically working on and with the Waco CVB project. So also a former Wacoan, and so exciting to be talking about my hometown and all of the growth that you guys have experienced and is yet to come. So as we look at the project vision, Hannah outlined several of these kind of core things that we want to accomplish through our work. We are really starting this project with the foundational understanding of current perceptions of Waco as a tourism destination, because we want to represent Waco really authentically in a way that speaks to y'all's diverse community, incredible growth, and all the unique cultural offerings you have here. We are using all of that data to really find some points of differentiation so that we can use those as we build out a new tourism-focused brand while still, keeping that same thread of the City of Waco branding in everything that we're doing here. So you'll be hearing about how we're utilizing imagery and creating some continuity in Waco Tourism's brand voice. We're also building out messaging that should resonate with Waco's plan for visitor growth over the next 5 to 10 years. We really want what we build in this project to be sustainable and allow you guys to keep growing and changing while still keeping that foundation of who Waco is at its core. I'm going to move through this About Madden section really quickly. The key thing to know is that Madden Media is an agency that is focused on DMOs. We work with hundreds of DMOs nationwide, and about 15% of our team has previously served in roles at DMOs, including myself. We do a little bit of everything, and I like to say we do it all well. We are a creative agency utilizing really beautiful imagery and content to build out unique brand voices. We place media, both print, digital, and a variety of activation and out of home. We try to have a thread of real technology and strategy plus research in everything that we do. So always trying to use those pillars to build something that feels like it resonates with the audience and reaches them in the right way. We additionally have a public relations arm. Earned media is becoming an even more important part of paid media as our media ecosystem evolves. So we are really passionate about marrying those two things. These are included in your packet, but this is just a little bit about the staff who works on the Waco CVB team. The Vice President of Destination Strategy, Daryl Whitworth, couldn't be here today. He was held up by some inclement weather, but I am happy to be joining you. We also have several really qualified people here on the Madden team who work directly on Waco's account, utilizing all of the incredible education and experience that they've had to really implement y'all's media plans, research, and branding. As we move into kind of this next stage of work with the Waco CVB, I thought it would be helpful for you guys to know kind of where we started and where we have been. So in September 2023, Madden won the RFP for working with the Waco CVB on the creative and digital landscape. In the fall of 2023, that really kicked off, and one of the metrics we're really proud of here is that we were able to drive over half the traffic to the website was courtesy of Madden's digital and print media publication placements. As we've kind of gone through some evolution in photo and video, a lot of discussion has taken place over who the Waco CVB is and how we can really communicate Waco's tourism offerings best to visitors. So as you'll see from this timeline, in the summer of 2025, we are hoping to reveal our new brand creative, but those conversations really started in the fall as we talked about all of the unique assets in Waco and how we can better communicate those offerings through print and digital placements. Again, just kind of a history lesson here. This is some of the work that we've produced in conjunction with Waco in 2023. This is the kind of featured branding and campaign that we won the business with. You can see a little bit of our work with the Believe It tagline. our fall placements and holiday placements leaned into this Wonderfully Waco concept. And then currently we're running with our What's Good in Waco concept as we go into this new branding discussion. Next up, I'll outline some of our process and these deliverables. So initially, as we started this project, we really wanted to lean into the research and strategic arm of Madden. So we've leaned heavily on the Waco CVB and internal and external stakeholders to really start to create this brand assessment that allows us to understand what people think about Waco, the core beliefs, and how growth has impacted the future as well as where you guys have been. That work is really coming together into a cohesive brand standard development. So our goal is to really show you guys at the end final version of this project how that brand can be produced in a style guide, how that brand can be viewed in activations, print, media, out of home, and a way that you guys can execute and implement that brand across all the different areas the Waco CVB touches, from meetings to leisure. So again, our task is to identify, define, and create a unique, representative, and memorable brand for Destination Waco. We want this brand to really be inclusive of all the work that you guys have done to really figure out who Waco is. So working with Monica and team has been really helpful in understanding a lot of the feedback that you guys have already put into this project. Our holistic branding approach and really kind of definition of the deliverables that you're getting from Madden through this process. The logo, which is the visual ambassador of the brand. This is something that really we feel strongly about as there has been so much discussion on, is it, the Waco CVB, Destination Waco, Visit Waco? We're really hoping that by the end of this, we all feel like we've selected a name and a logo that represents where you guys have been and where you're going. That's really kind of part of that visual identity, that look and feel. It's everything from colors to patterns to unique little graphics or marks that might be used in branding. Additionally, we think it's really powerful how the Waco tone of voice is executed through our advertising. So you and the Waco CVB team will be receiving a written identity for the Waco CVB and visitor-facing brand, as well as an application guide so that we can outline how those styles and those patterns might play with real-life applications. Once your new brand is finalized, we'll deliver a style guide that outlines all the details you'll need to activate that new look and feel. I reviewed some of these just a second ago, but you can also see one of the key things is really the brand story. So core messaging, brand voice, and brand pillars, which includes a tagline there that we are working to develop. We also include photography guidelines and typography guidelines in order to help this brand grow and change over the next 10 years, but also speak to who you guys have been before. Just as a quick reminder, this is the current brand for the Waco CVB, and you can see some of the elements here from the color palettes. We are going through this brand research phase right now. Some of you have met me during this phase, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and work alongside the Waco CVB staff to really understand some of these core tenets that you see on the screen. As we work towards a new brand, we really want to take into account the audience that we're speaking to. So who are your visitors? What emotions are we trying to draw out from them? What are the unique value propositions that Waco has, as well as what is its unique tourism identity? Waco is a place unlike any other place. I am very passionate about Texas tourism in general, and so we had a lot of conversations in our brand research phase about who Waco is as a Texan, but also who Waco is on a national scale. We are really taking into account the messaging and visuals that feel representative of Waco, and those internal and external stakeholders have been a big help in helping us understand what those might look like or feel like. Kind of as a final slide here, a bow on top of everything I've just discussed, you can see here, these are the final project deliverables for this brand plan. You'll be receiving from Madden Media the brand study, logo development, tagline creation, and brand style guide. We, of course, are working with the Waco CVB staff very closely to make sure that everything we create feels like it resonates with their vision for the future. Notes on timeline here, we are currently in our brand research phase, about to wrap that up at the tail end of this week, and then our team will be working to compile all of that brand planning so that our research and brand strategy can be finalized by February 18th, and then tagline messaging and logo design can start. Because our team has been working with Waco since 2023, this branding project timeline is really indicative of all of the in-person trips we've made, as well as the stakeholder interviews that we've been conducting over this past 2 weeks. By March 24th, initial sketches and messaging will be delivered to the Waco CVB team, and then the round 2 of logos and messaging will take into account any feedback that we get from the Waco CVB team, so that our goal can be May 30th, brand guidelines are finalized, and we can present final recommendations to you at City Council on June 17th, with a goal for final files buttoned up and delivered by June 30th, and a new brand and campaign launched at the July-August mark this summer, so that visitors can start to see and enjoy and resonate with that new brand. That is it for me. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you so much. Enjoyed the opportunity to sit down with the team and share our reflections on Waco and its branding and its strengths. For kind of council and public benefit, we as a city walked through a branding process that was more focused on the audience of kind of Waco-McLennan County, like our people locally. And this is the kind of external facing tourism branding, which will likely look different than the internal messaging, is my understanding. Wanted to ask just kind of a question in part of the deliverables, or kind of whether it's part of it. We call this our DMO, Waco CVB, is part of what you're looking at, whether we need to rename that. You think so? Okay, so that's kind of on the table too with this as well.
Yeah, so really, as you think, CVB has been a term that has shifted into the DMO. I'm the Destination Marketing Organization or Destination Management Organization. It's kind of used interchangeably. And so really meaning the same type of feel, but instead of moving from really a convention and visitors bureau feel into who are we and what are they really doing versus just kind of focusing on that small scope. And so yes, absolutely thinking through both the shift in that, but then what is the name? Who are we as a CVB and as we shift and grow?
Okay, so both kind of, that's kind of maybe the internal component for us, but also there's a larger like brand that we project external. Absolutely. And a campaign and a logo and a tagline.
You'll see various tourism places, visit Fort Worth or visit Dallas. A lot of them will have kind of that call to action to do something, to visit or destination. And so part of this process will be really identifying who are we as we identify ourselves as a tourism industry. What are we saying? Who is Waco? Are we a destination Waco? Are we a visit Waco? Are we experience Waco? All things that we're kind of going through in this entire process to say what makes sense for who we are uniquely.
So like as people drive through Waco, they may see kind of more our internal branding that's like a city to believe in. They could see that on a billboard or a bus. But like maybe as they go through the Texas Monthly, they may see an ad that would be more this branding or marketing or receive literature or other electronic targeted messaging for this kind of more external focus. Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, thanks, Monica and Hannah and Emily and the Madden team there. I appreciate y'all. I know as Councilmember Border is pointing out, there are going to be kind of subtle and nuanced differences between the tourism branding and the City of Waco branding, and then I didn't think about that also, Monica, for the CVB to the DMO and how all that's going to fit together and sort of be distinctively different. But I look forward, thanks for the timeline, that's always useful, and we look forward to hearing from you throughout the process and getting your recommendations in June. I appreciate it. Thank you again. The next item on the agenda is work session 2025-007. Manager Ford, this better be a good one.
All right. Next up,
Yes.
we got Jonathan Cook, Director of Parks and Recreation, coming up to give an update on Floyd Casey Park, including project milestones, schedule, components. We're excited to have an update on this transformational project. It is a $25 million investment, all in, with design and construction estimates, which represents the largest amount of money we've ever invested in a park in Waco's history. So we'll have key updates. I think you'll see some new renderings, and I'm excited for you to see a new fly-through video as well. And I know Councilmember Rodriguez is ready to see that all-inclusive park and hear about the next steps. So Jonathan, if you'll take us through the deck.
Thank you, City Manager Ford, Councilman, Mayor, council members. Appreciate y'all allowing me the time to come and do a little bit of a check-in here on this exciting project that we've talked about several times before, and really seeing this transform as we're on the verge of getting this project underway and bringing this to our community that is unlike any project we've done in our park system. So excited to be here. As Bradley and City Manager Ford mentioned, this is a status update and to gather input on our final design as we're finishing up the construction documents. So we want to look at some of those milestones in the schedule and really take a look at the core components of this project and give you a little update. When we were last here in November, we looked at some specific areas, in general, the direction we're going, but now we're going to take a little further look into these community gathering spaces throughout the park. How that's going to look, and then also a really detailed look at what I like to say, a place for all to play. And that's that all abilities inclusive design elements that we've brought into this project. And we'll wrap up with the summary in our next steps. As you may recall, this is a project that stems from the master developer agreement with Floyd Casey 1 on the former side of the Floyd Casey football stadium. The city did maintain approximately 30 acres along Waco Creek, where you see the track on your left-hand side and stretching over a large expansion of green space. And with y'all's approval, we're looking at a $25 million park design and construction of what's really a destination park that'll be really, I'm to the point to say it's going to turn heads from throughout the state on what we're doing here. We did enter in a professional services agreement with Design Workshop. Their team out of Austin, Texas has been guiding us through this way. And then we've hosted our community open house meetings, gathered a variety of different surveys, neighborhood associations, and continue to do that, even though we had those formal meetings over a year ago now. Those were instrumental in us creating a vision plan that we presented in March. And then we came back in November to give you an update on the design development. And as I mentioned right now, we're at the final stretch of construction documents. Laying it out, showing you that timeline of where we're at and moving quite along in that red. We are here, keeps moving even further every day. But important to note, we're going to be wrapping up the construction documentation here in February, in the next month. We've already started and working with our city teams and different partners in other departments to make sure that we're ready to go on the permitting side of things and rolling straight in to getting this project out to bid. We are hoping to get under construction here May, June, start of the summer, and looking at a good 12 to 15 month project expectation. It's a very large park, a lot of different components, so I want to sort of show that to you. And we're going to look, a couple things I wanted to highlight here on our guiding principles. This is definitely just not a playground, definitely just not a walking loop. So one, I mentioned that word destination, and we wanted to really cater to diverse physical abilities as well in this park, while also wanted to honor the history of the neighborhood and the history of the Hispanic heritage that we have here in Waco, and also take the time to really capitalize on the opportunity opportunity to bring Waco Creek back into this area as a natural feature. So plenty of opportunities when you're looking at a park of this scope, and we're excited to really see where it's taking shape. So a large stretch here, and with this project, I've always sort of broken it up into 3 sections. And you know, you have the track on the left, and there are renovations in this first phase that's going in, or that are going into the track. And that includes a new track surface, a new infield that's going to be able to accommodate and be resized for a football field, and also youth soccer, not regulation soccer field, but also be able to accommodate some of that. Also doing work to the restrooms and really the accessibility of this track area. But I want to guide you through, and Councilmember Rodriguez referring to the resolution that's on the agenda for today. That additional services agreement has to do with the Creekway and the flood and the water resource study that needs to be completed for our FEMA permits, as there's going to be some gentle grading going into this area. Right now, if you walk up to it, as you know, it's lined with concrete, you know, an old concrete drainage chute on one side. And so we're going to be removing that concrete, creating a more natural feel. And right there on number 7, a little small, but you see a pedestrian bridge that's going to stretch over 150 feet across that creek. So it's how do you build that connection? Right now you have to walk out onto Clay Avenue to get between the 2 properties. So this pedestrian bridge is really going to connect these 2 pieces, and you'll walk into a wetlands area full of native landscaping that's really serving a sustainability feature, as it's going to take the water coming off a site and filter it naturally through the vegetation. It's going to have some boardwalk overlooks, and so these are going to be primarily dry throughout the season, but in rain events they will hold water, and really working on that natural sustainability factor of this park, of the wetlands area, a lot of interpretive activities. But you see a great lawn area that can be used for events and festivals in the back, and we're going to really dive into the core of this park, as you see in the middle. Everything from a plaza area with water fountains, a large, all 3, that orange, purple, and blue. You're about to see a vision of this playground and just how expansive it is in sports courts. So give you a layout. This area is what we're working on now. We have continued to be doing study and design works for Bells Hill. As you know, we came and did a renovation of the ball field, and we are currently working on the creek area as well, the pedestrian crossings at 26. The team is working on a design that's not a part of this first project, but it is something that we're designing, so we're able to continue stretching this park along, as that connectivity is an important piece for us. I mentioned the community gathering spaces, and really at the heart of it, parks are for people. You know, and people can enjoy parks in different ways, but how do we activate on a daily basis? Really important to make sure we're maximizing that investment that y'all have determined to make for this area. And so we're going to get to some of these renderings, and as you're coming in, this is one area coming in from the parking lot, and a couple notes that I want to make. It is a heavy emphasis on the vegetation. Vegetation and the environmental design going into this. Notice you're using those limestone as natural seating areas. That comes from a design element of the creek, but then also the native plantings. But in the back, you have a 3-tiered pavilion that can be used as a large pavilion for family gatherings or celebrations, or also broken into smaller sections. And there you see the 3 roof pieces there. So a multifunction pavilion area, and you see a little bit, you know, different picnic areas scattered throughout to provide a sense of privacy. Knowing we all dream of going and taking a picnic with our kids and bringing the blanket and the basket, but the reality of it is, who wants to pack up everything? So providing those areas for families to gather, very important. And then in this picture, just the trees. A lot of emphasis coming in, bringing in mature shade trees, and so we can see immediate impact to providing some shading in this open area. Now, that Arrival Plaza, I showed you in the daytime, but another, it's Texas, and we all like to get out, we know it's hot, but the evening is very important for us as we see a large activation time for this park being in the evening hours, especially during the summertime. And so this graphic, it shows a couple things that I want to point out, and first and foremost, we've got planned in for some mural exhibits on the restroom walls, which you see over there to the right, some different places for cultural art to be placed in. And then in the middle, what I really want to highlight is our splash pad, which splash pad water feature, and that splash pad is a term that we use for what we have in our current parks and our neighborhood parks, with some different water pipes coming up and spraying and colorful. But as design has evolved, we really wanted to capture the presence of water here to where you can not only come and kids, sure they can play, but it's that artistic element that comes in at night, being able to really highlight with some different color patterns and different styles. We feel like this is going to be just a great feature to where people just come out to enjoy and relax. You see it from another angle here, and I wanted to show this rendering as well, because when you come another section, you see the different tile layouts that we're going to have on this plaza area, but also the capability to design for the large great lawn area in the back that will be able to bring in temporary or mobile staging, host different styles of event, whether that be for a Cinco de Mayo or Fiesta Patrias, or really things citywide. We've got a great lawn area that when not used for events, it's just a great space for people to get out, have pickup recreation, or just enjoy the turf. And then we have food truck areas as well, they'll be able to come in and activate to provide different vendor markets. This is a spot that would be, but as you can tell, that water feature really a central component of that. And so in the design of this, I mentioned a little different from our current spray parks, and we're incorporating 3 different styles of water features. One of them being the traditional spray, but then adding in mist and fog for a visual as well. And just envision when you go to the evening hours, and these are some sample parks that we looked at to incorporate the water spraying up in the range of 4 to 7 feet with the different colors. You'll notice that the bright colors are going to be evident throughout the design of this park. And then, like I said, the spray and the fog are just added features. Now, I mentioned the colors and a place for all to play, and we've been talking a long time, council members, about the need for Waco, not just to have some inclusive elements in different playgrounds, but an inclusive park, something that meets all abilities. And so that was really one of the main goals of this project, is how do we design something that's for everyone? And I love the term the other day, Councilmember Bearfield, I believe it was you or maybe Deidre, the K to gray. And what K to gray, what we're doing, and really when you look at the park, it's all abilities, it's all ages. And so what we really dove into are a couple key questions. We know there are physical abilities that we want to be able to meet and be able to have accessibility, but then there are also cognitive and intellectual needs that we started looking into and working with the design team on. And so to be truly inclusive, we had 3 firm questions of, can users get around and navigate with ease? Can they stay? Can they stay? Does it give them different opportunities, not just a one and done feature? And then how can they access those features? So in looking at, these are the different groups in looking at the playground design that we targeted with different features that we're going to be showing today. Now, this next slide is a lot to take in right here, and I want to give an asterisk right here. The flooring is all pour in place throughout this area, accessible. I know a lot of our parks have the mulch. We are not going with this exact color scheme. This was to show some options, but I really love this picture. Simply because I want to focus on the 3 different sections that have been designed. And once again, thinking of all those different needs that different people have, we've created 3 zones of play. And really, these zones are larger than what you typically see in our park system right now for a typical playground. But one focusing on imagination area. Then we have a middle area where you see the flower petal shade structures coming up. That's our arts and music area, to where kids can really engage with some hands-on activity. And then finally, we have our movement area. This one on the bottom, we're just really showing space for people to stretch out. It has a hammock area on the right-hand side, and obviously a dramatic feature coming up to where we're really bringing some of the folklore of the Hispanic heritage to life. And we're going to take a closer look at a couple of these. As you walk in, the imagination, and this is playing off the different masks and colors that you see. These are wooden features that are designed to circle a rope enclosure. These ropes are really the feel of it, and being able to pull really hits on some of these different abilities. And so I mentioned one design that we're really excited to see are these flower shade structures coming up. But then once again, the contrast I want to show too is providing shade areas is very important. You'll see some shade sails later, but also with that vegetation. But the creativity and the colors, just bringing that to life. If you think of the Disney movies of Coco or Encanto, that's really the theme, not specifically those, but seeing how that magical world can come to life was a really goal of the project with our design team. Coming in a little step, I will say also different ages. And so as we all know, as kids grow, they sort of gravitate to different features in a playground. But we did make an emphasis for the 5 and under range and wanted to show some of those areas. We've got a small stage for performance with different play areas, a lot of touch and feel features, but then also incorporating that cultural even into simple playground features, as you see there on the left with the maracas that will shake as you go back and forth, and then providing different, once again on the top picture, that's a slide that this will be like in Braille on one side, then English and Spanish, different language. So just came at it with a broad sense of what we're trying to design here and the different play features. And then finally, I want to get to the forefront, or really one of the lead design elements. And this is a great area. As I mentioned, you see the shade cells. There's accessible pendulum swing that will be coming in. And then this large folklore creature or feature that we have that's really all accessible. You can loop up, and there's different panels on the back, but you see the slides. This hill will be upwards in the 12 to 17-foot elevation range. So it's really going to be a pop-out feature, a design, as you can see the tail coming off that kids are going to be able to climb on and climb through. Really something special and goes beyond just slides or stairs or different features. So excited to bring in the artistic element. And once again, just that accessibility. If you see the spacing around here, very intentional to give everybody their own room to play. I mentioned about all these different features and only touching on a couple, but to give an example, right now when we start looking at different charts, we've got 39 different accessible amenities for children ages 2 to 5. These include elevated activities, ground level activities, and then ground level different play types. To be considered an accessible playground, our requirement is only for 16 of these features. So this is in the age 2 to 5 range, and you can see really the intentional effort to go above and beyond and focusing on all ability accessibility. And then the same can be said in looking at it for ages 5 to 12. We currently are slotted for 64 different ADA amenities. And once again, we're going from playgrounds to where we've added in some ADA features, but you're talking 1 or 2 at a playground. So to take the step forward and move in this direction really speaks to how inclusive this playground is going to be. And it really got our imagination thinking from a park design component of it's not just about the playground, but making sure the park, the other features of the park are accessible to all. And so one thing I'm excited to show you all today is, through the design process, we heard a lot of people talk about the want for a skate park. And so we started thinking, okay, yeah, we've got a skate park, but true, it's a great feature for different parks and think it'd be a good fit. Then we started talking about bicycles as well. Well, what about kids learning to ride bikes, maybe riding from the neighborhood? And taking that a step forward, we decided to come up with an all-wheels track. This is an all-wheels to where even a wheelchair, whether you're on rollerblades, whether you're on a scooter, all ages, a very introductory type of all-wheels track. And so it's an all-in-one feature designed with this concrete pathway with gentle slopes as a pump track, also featuring an artistic sort of wave feature in the middle that draws people in. And so we're really excited to have this as a component of the park. All-wheels track, while not for, the experts as far as skateboarding and whatnot, we've got a skate park for them, but a really introductory area to where your families can go out and enjoy this feature in the park. We also started looking at our sports courts, and these will be off to the right of the playground. And this is really looking at, okay, well, what are we seeing trending in our current sports courts and making sure that we have an upgrade. Basketball remains very popular in our sports courts, but what we've seen is really dual play to where they're getting utilized a lot on our tennis courts and basketball court for futsal. And so futsal is basically an indoor or a contained small soccer court that's become really popular, especially at our South Waco Community Center. So this is going to be basketball goals that have the nets built in underneath them, so you're not just kicking into a fence. So a multi-sport court there. And then flipping around, we have, this will be our first brand new pickleball courts that we're going to incorporate into a park. The rise of pickleball continues, and we've been fortunate to be able to get some partnerships to build and convert some tennis courts, but we're bringing in, once again, a new feature. So once again, that inclusivity of something for everyone, adding in the all-wheels part, something that we don't have, adding in the pickleball and also the futsal to create different recreation opportunities that will complement the activities that we have at the track and field complex with track and field football and then field soccer as well.
Jonathan, I really appreciate that dual use with the basketball and the futsal. I feel like that's going to be a real added value, and it's probably a smart way to proceed in a lot of different neighborhoods going forward. But appreciate the mindfulness, too, on the popularity of soccer. I know baseball is king, and I don't mean to undermine or insert my policy prerogatives into a District 2 park, of course. But I really do appreciate, as soccer continues to rise in our community, the mindfulness of kind of programming that into these various parks. So thank you.
Sure, I appreciate it. And so that's a lot to take in, a very big park and some things I know that you haven't seen before. So I did want to sort of pull it all together and put a bow on top and give you a preview from a video standpoint. And I want to remind you, I mean, we are really going to that final part of our construction documents. So of what you're seeing right here is the way we're lining up for this project to look.
Jonathan, oh, video, I'm sorry. I'm excited about this. I'm not even. It's awesome.
We're excited to get here, and I appreciate y'all supporting the opportunity for me to be able to work on this project. It's something our department and our city has not done before, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it and bring this to our community. And it's excited to be here, but excited to where we're going on our next steps. And just a quick overview, we've got our dates here, as I've mentioned. We're looking to get under construction very soon here at the first part of 25, heading into May and June. That estimated construction timeline, we're trying to make it as quick as possible, but we are looking upwards of a 15-month project. And so fall 26 on estimated completion. So as we're going, I want to remind everybody you can find updates on this project at waco-texas.com/parks. That's our Parks and Recreation homepage, to where we have different park projects featured, and also posting updates on our social media channels. So with that, any questions, happy to take, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
No questions, Jonathan. You and your staff and Bradley have just taken this, and like you said a while ago, you have gone above and beyond. It started off, guys, if y'all remember, as an inclusive park. There was not one here in Waco. I was approached by parents that said they had to take their kids to Temple to play in a park for handicapped and challenged kids. So that started the ball rolling here, and it has gone from an inclusive park to a park for everybody. And thank you for your imagination, your passion, and your drive for this park. It's going to be a jewel in the center of Waco that's accessible. Valley Mills, it's right off of Valley Mills, a few blocks from Interstate 35, Waco Drive, Franklin Avenue. So it's accessible to everyone that wants to get there. This is something that is going to be a crown jewel for the city of Waco. And I am so happy that it's happening in District 2, neighbored by District 3. But this is so exciting. I'm at a loss for words, because everything you have shown us is awesome. The kids here in Waco are going to love this. They're going to be able to enjoy this. Parents are going to be able to sit there and enjoy watching their kids play there. Come out and have a picnic area while their kids are playing. The water features, the colors of the water features are fantastic. They're awesome. I was trying to picture it at night, how beautiful it's going to look. During the day it's going to be beautiful too, but at night the colors are going to be so awesome. And I am at a loss for words. And I want to start crying, because I am so happy. I know the kids in Waco are going to be happy, but Clinton County is going to be happy. But this is, Jonathan, you and your staff have just gone, I can't say it, but just know that I'm happy, the kids will be happy, District 2 is going to be happy, the city of Waco is going to be happy, because this is going to be, of everything that we have done and have put up here in Waco, including our future baseball stadium, this is going to be the crown jewel.
It's special.
It is so special. And like I said, it just started off as an inclusive park, and you guys have taken it so much further. Never in my mind, I did go out to some places to look at the play areas of different places for handicapped and challenged kids. But never, never, never did I think or even picture, it's going to be awesome. It is awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for this opportunity and to give the community something like this. We all sense in our design team, the kudos to them and our internal staff, because we all realize the special nature of this project, that it just goes beyond basic parks and recreation. You're talking about quality of life.
Yes. Bradley, thank you for allowing Jonathan and his staff to dream and bring it to fruition. Thank you. I know you had a lot to do with this.
Honor, and I think it'll be an honor once all the names and the history elements are added to these beautiful renderings and built, because so many people are going to come to this site and engage with our history and our heritage, and it will become a focal point in them learning about the impacts and the people that built Waco from the Hispanic heritage standpoint.
Yes.
And so you're getting to layer on a lot of great pieces into a project. And I'm like you, I'm excited and very appreciative of the staff because they've really bought into the vision that you laid out for us.
Yes, this is just, y'all go ahead.
Fantastic. Any other
Yes.
comments?
Yeah, I'll just add on. I mean, first of all, I want to also extend gratitude for Jonathan and his team for, like you said, I think the ability to dream and envision this. That tour of the inclusive playground is breathtaking. Like that is staggering. I could see, you know, I could see Darius taking his daughter. I don't want to speak for him, but that, I mean, if my kids were under 12, I would love to take them to that playground. But then looking at the futsal, I could see me and my son going out there. I don't live but half a mile away from this. I used to walk to Floyd Casey to the football games. You know, I know my neighbors will be walking over there, biking over there, driving over there. And so I appreciate city management putting a high priority on this from a physical perspective. I appreciate Jonathan's work. And Alice, I think this is just an amazing legacy piece for your 3 decades on council. This is something to be proud of that will honor your service and the heritage of our Hispanic community and be something that is so sought after for young families and the community. I'm just really excited about it. I've got one question, Jonathan, and that is, looking at that performance space there, Alice and I were at the kind of the Cinco de Mayo. We saw Little Joe at Brazos Nights. Might that be a live music venue, or how do you envision that performance space?
Sure, it definitely has that capability. There is not a permanent stage performance area going in, and working with different events, and even with our events, you know, those mobile stages, the availability in the east to bring those in. And so when you don't have a permanent structure, it gives you more flexibility. No doubt, I see from market areas, I see very big, you think of runs and races that could be centered out of there. The possibilities are endless, but yes, from a performance standpoint, I think it gets us thinking of how do you activate these different spaces throughout town, and definitely it's a great lawn that will lend itself to those types of celebrations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments of Jonathan?
Just a really quick question. I know we're kind of right on the precipice of the construction aspect, which is really exciting. Wanted a clarification on the ongoing residential construction happening adjacent to this for the residential development there. Will any delays or interference from that, would any delays or anything that they're working on cause delays with park construction, or would that be, you know, sort of separate enough to not have to worry about it?
It is a separate project, obviously in coordination with what they're going on, and our city teams who are working on both of the projects from the review and permitting side of things. But it is separate, and I would not anticipate any delays coming from that side of the project.
Great. I'll just echo everybody else's comments and just really going back to that page 219, I think second or third page of your presentation, Jonathan, those guiding principles. I like how we're able to build this thing from scratch and kind of stick to the guiding principles of making it a destination, really geared toward, as Councilmember Rodriguez said, originally it was for diverse physical abilities and their families, and it's kind of grown into this really cool state-of-the-art place for those diverse physical ability families, celebrating the history, kind of optimizing Waco Creek that doesn't get a lot of good press here in Waco. That's our oldest creek there. And creating another vibrant place to go in Waco, Texas. This council's been very intentional about quality of life improvements in the city, and this is going to be one that shines brightly. So I appreciate your presentation, and thanks again. We'll be keeping track. You're going to come in a few more months and tell us.
I'm sure I
Give us
will.
regular updates.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
And I
Keep it
want to
going,
thank the council here for approving the money that staff came up with that we needed. Thank you for that. And if it weren't for you guys backing this up, it wouldn't happen. So this is something that we all are going to be proud of. And I did want to say, I've gone to Bells Hill Park, and I have seen what they have done over there. Bradley, that's beautiful too, and Jonathan, Bells Hill Park is a beautiful park, but it's built so kind of in tiers that you can't, it's not flat, it's up and down and so, but I'm talking about the baseball field. Y'all really did a good job on that as well. We do need to work on that creek, and I don't know how, I'm sure you guys would come up with something to keep kids from going over there to that creek and to the railroad, the train coming through there a lot. That's dangerous as well, but what was done to the baseball field and the park is really beautiful. I mean, it's I don't know if y'all have gone out there to look at it, but in my mind, I can't see 26th Street and Floyd Casey coming together. I've gone through there 100 times trying to think, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do this? And every chance I get, I go by there to see how far that developer has gone on in his process. But again, thank you, your staff, Bradley, this council for approving the money for this. This is something that y'all don't know. People all over are going to enjoy this park.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. We will now move to work session 2025-008. City Manager Ford, we're going to get this one in?
We're going to do this one. We're going to get it squeezed in. We're going to invite Jed Walker and Charles Lee
Come on up.
This is a discussion of proposed changes to our street and stormwater design standards for new development. This is a project we've been working on for the better part of 18 months, 24 months. Appreciate the help of these two gentlemen. And council might recall that we approached you months ago with kind of an update, and you encouraged us to go back and get input from the developer and builder community. And so a portion of today's discussion will be relative to that input and compromises that we've made with that important industry here in Waco. So we've got Charles Least, our interim director of public works, and of course Jed Walker, who's president of Walker Partners, here at the dais with us today. Gentlemen.
Thank you, City Manager Ford, Mayor, Council. We're here today to talk to you all about civil engineering, and so this is going to be maybe not quite as exciting as what you've seen earlier today, but we got to do it. I mean, from my perspective, we have some pretty neat things to talk about. But in any event, a few of you all are new faces to the council since we were here last, and so I just wanted to kind of give you an update on the journey. We actually started in 2015, whenever we were hired to do the city's wastewater and stormwater master plan. Now, we didn't take 5 years to work on the stormwater master plan. It didn't get funded till later, and so around 2020, we submitted our first draft of updated, new, and proposed stormwater criteria. And then in 2021, while you all were working on a new ordinance, we were retained to help you all do the new street criteria as well as stormwater. In 2022, we began stakeholders meetings, and we met with the Hard Texas Builders Association, the Associated General Contractors, the American Society of Civil Engineers, the Texas Society of Professional Engineers, and the development group that meets once a month at City Hall, just to get input and to start the collaborative process. In 2023, in April of 2023, that was the last time we were here, we presented the draft to you all of the criteria. Then in December of 2024, just a couple months ago, we met again with the stakeholders and went over the final draft, and we presented to them how we had compromised, acquiesced, and done everything that we could to make it the most economically feasible criteria we felt possible. Here we are today in January, and hopefully in February next month, we'll be able to come back and get approval for the criteria. First, we're going to talk about stormwater criteria, and I think the biggest thing here is, why do we need new stormwater criteria? Well, there's a number of reasons, but I think at the top of the list is just to preserve and protect the public's health, safety, and welfare. You all may not remember, but in 2013, there was a death actually in Waco from flooding. I think that heightened the awareness of just how important drainage infrastructure is. We also want to protect and preserve the environment and protect the quality of our local water resources. A couple of things there. In Waco's new integrated water plan, one of the threats to our water supply is sedimentation and siltation. And I think even later tonight, you all are going to talk about possibly dredging out Lake Brazos, and at some point in time, it may not be while any of us are in this room, but there's probably going to be dredging of Lake Waco because sediment is in fact consuming storage volume in our lakes. When we embarked on the Stormwater Master Plan, we determined pretty quickly that the number one pollutant to water supplies in Waco is sediment. And the sediment that's coming off of streets, parking lots, and construction sites is getting transported and deposited in our water supply, in our waterways and water courses. And so having a water quality component within our stormwater design criteria is extremely important today. Finally, we thought it was very important to provide equitable and sustainable drainage and street solutions throughout the city so that taxpayers in the inner city don't have to burden the cost of reconstruction on the perimeter of the city where there's been a lot of flooding and a lot of premature street decline. So what happens when we have inadequate stormwater design? This is an example of a relatively new subdivision, and when we say new, within the last 20 years, where inadequate stormwater design criteria has led to this. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen where the address is on the mailbox, that's about 2.5, almost 3 feet from the gutter line to the address, and you can see that it's underwater in a relatively minor storm event. Here's another example of inadequate stormwater design criteria in a newer subdivision in Waco. This one actually led to the city having to buy out this home, and you can see on the left, once the city of Waco bought it, it had to be torn down. You can see the lot now as it exists, and that was a cost to taxpayers of over $270,000, relatively significant, and doing that still didn't solve the drainage issue within that neighborhood.
And just for our benefit and for the benefit of the public, those were all compliant with our current drainage codes and ordinances.
That's my understanding from city staff. City staff went out and collected these, and this is with, we're going to talk about this in just a minute, but the current drainage criteria calls for the design for a 5-year design storm, so that all facilities are for a very minor event. So anytime you get a rainfall event more than what's defined as a 5-year storm, you're subjected to having flooding like this. The next slide is a pretty good example as well. Let's see if we can get, it's a video, but it's not coming up. So there's a really neat video here, and it should be coming up, but it just shows that if you don't have stormwater design criteria that requires and provides guidelines for stormwater detention, what can happen and what does happen in Waco, and that is, again, with the current design criteria. One of the other needs is that the storm drainage design manual that the City of Waco currently has was written in 1959. And I've got to tell you, though, it's excellent. It's just very outdated. There are parts of this design manual that are so good, in fact, that the City of Austin has it in some of their design criteria, and some of the really pertinent parts we wanted to preserve, and we're putting it in the appendices of the new criteria manual because it is still pertinent. However, a lot of things have changed since 1959, and stormwater design and how we handle stormwater, et cetera, the industry and technology has advanced greatly, and so it's definitely time for an update. In 2013, the City of Waco did prepare a stormwater management regulation that is not bad, but it never really took root, it didn't get its sea legs, and it really hasn't been implemented, and regardless, it still is for a design storm of only 5 years. So it wasn't quite enough. I'd say it was probably a little too late, but also it hasn't been implemented since 2013. Okay, so how do we move forward in implementing modern, updated stormwater design and get the buy-in of the local development community? One thing that we knew that we had to do, learning from the lessons past, is we had to get stakeholder engagement. And we've done this, like I mentioned earlier. We have had so many meetings with the stakeholders, and we have met internally, us and city staff, hours upon end, trying to come up with something that we believe is fair and equitable to all parties. Not only have we had many meetings, but also Waco had a website, and it invited for people to comment, and we did get a number of comments. But I think more importantly than any of this is that we didn't just go through the motion of having stakeholder engagement. I think we really listened. I think we had our development meetings with the land developers and with their engineers, and they did have some very legitimate concerns. But at the end of the day, we knew that we had to meet in the middle because we had to have something that was economically feasible for the home builders and the developers in Waco, but we also had to have something that promoted high-quality infrastructure development in Waco. So what we got 61 comments, predominantly from the Heart Texas Builders Association, and I want to tell you all, my hat goes off to Ken Cooper. He was the president when this was going on, and comments, I mean, for the most part, were so professional. The meetings that we had were on a very high level, very professional, and so it actually was a lot of fun to be able to engage with them. We didn't agree at first on 61 different items, but it was a way to start the collaboration to get to where we are today. And we're not going to go into all of the compromises and how we acquiesced, but we did acquiesce or compromise on 24 of their comments, many of which were significant, but we never once did anything to reduce the quality of Waco's future infrastructure. So I think that's a win-win. As you might guess, their number one comment was that the new criteria was going to be too expensive. So you can see on the left exactly what one of their comments was, and it was that the changes that are being proposed are not hundreds or even a few $1,000s in additional home costs, but tens of thousands of dollars. Well, when city management heard this, they asked if we would go in and do an unbiased cost estimate for a development that was very typical in Waco with 80-foot lots, and the city staff selected the development, one that's on the Highway 84 corridor, near the Chapel Road corridor, one that had typical soil conditions, one that had curvilinear streets, some straight streets, had significant stormwater drainage, had stormwater detention as well as stormwater quality. And so we did. We jumped in and we designed that subdivision from beginning to end with the current criteria and with the new criteria. and we retained a local contractor to give us cost on that. So it's not just Jed Walker or Walker Partners coming up with cost. It is a local contractor that does subdivision construction as their main part of their business. So we did it, and I will tell you that this is somewhat of a surprise, but the proposed stormwater design criteria came up at a cost of $15,400 per lot, whereas the new criteria was $19,122 per lot. So we've actually reduced the cost of the stormwater construction, the inlets, the culverts, the storm sewer pipe, and the detention facilities by almost $4,000 per lot. That took a tremendous amount of work. Another one of the comments that they had was they were very concerned because in the original draft of the criteria, the city of Waco was not stating that they would definitely maintain the infrastructure that was put into a development. You can see down there that it said, we fear the maintenance costs for water quality measures will be substantial. Water quality measures combined with a public detention facility and wholly contained within public rights-of-way or dedicated public drainage easements may be maintained by the city of Waco. They took exception to the word may because they didn't want to end up having to have neighborhood associations maintain the drainage infrastructure, and they thought that would be very costly on all the neighborhood developments. So, City of Waco staff came in with new language, and it says that all accepted drainage facilities serving 2 or more legal lots wholly contained within public right-of-way or easements will be maintained by the city, and I can tell you that the development community was extremely happy with this. So I told you there were 24 comments that we acquiesced or compromised on. However, there were a couple that we didn't, and I think we didn't compromise for good reason. We are strong believers that we as a community need to design all of our drainage facilities for a 25-year design storm. The difference is a 25-year storm is any storm that there's a 4% chance of that happening in a year. A 5-year storm is a 20% chance. So we have a lot of 5-year storms. We have fewer 25-year, but in Texas they're pretty frequent. And a 25-year storm does not mean once every 25 years, it means 4% every year, and we seem to have quite a few of them. So we held our ground on that, and I think for pretty good reason. If you look at where other cities are, you'll see that we're pretty much right in the sweet spot. Most cities are either a 25-year design storm as their criteria or 100-year. So with us being at the 25-year, I think we're in a pretty good place. You can also see that where the current criteria is of only a 5-year design storm, we have no one in that camp. The other thing that we didn't acquiesce on was site grading. The development group said it's their belief that us requiring grading plans, that means an earthwork contouring map engineering plan for the entire subdivision, will not solve lot grading problems, so thus the increased cost will not prove fruitful. We highly disagree with that, and we've expressed that to them. So many of the problems in the city of Waco are from poor lot-to-lot grading. Here's a cause and effect. You can see the newer lots on the left all drain downhill towards a swimming pool, and the house with the swimming pool has very poor lot grading, and the houses on the upstream side have very poor lot grading, so all of that water is being directed to the swimming pool, so you can see what happens to those people's swimming pool after a rain, and there's not much you can do about that. After there's fencing up and landscaping, etc., it's a problem. So we stuck to our guns on the lot grading, and that's not really a cost that increases the cost of the development. It's a little more engineering cost and a little more planning because it takes a little more effort. Okay, next we're going to talk about street design criteria, and there really hasn't been criteria for street design and construction in Waco. There's been standard specifications and there's been standard details, but not specifically design criteria. What we're proposing to do here with this new criteria is to take the current standards that produce a street that has a 20-year life, we're proposing to take all of the City of Waco's new streets to a 50-year life. And the reason that we want to do that is because you can see how where you have soil conditions that may not be the best, and you combine that with construction practices and design practices that are not the best, we have a lot of streets that are failing prematurely. City of Waco staff put this together, and this is pretty shocking, but these are 61 streets that are less than 20 years old, so they're all from the outskirts of Waco, around the perimeter. They're in newer subdivisions, and there are $44 million worth of construction that needs to be redone on these streets. That's $44 million on streets that are less than 20 years old. That is a very significant number, and it's spread out throughout all 5 districts. But we can do better than that. We can do a whole lot better than that. This graph will take you a lot of time, and you don't have it, I understand, but it's interesting to show the dark blue line that transverse across this graph is a street designed for a 50-year life, and the yellow or gold line is for a 20-year life. And while the dark blue line cost a little bit more to build in the beginning, you can see at the 20-year mark, you have to rebuild the street as we're currently designing and building them, whereas you only need to do routine maintenance such as an overlay to a 50-year street. So over a 50-year life of that street, we're projecting that the City of Waco can save almost $12 billion on street reconstruction cost. And that's in present dollars, and that doesn't account for inflation. But that is a huge number. But we have to balance that with what we're looking to require the developers to do in addition to get to this point. It's actually real simple. The top is a street cross-section. That's the anatomy of our streets as we're building them today. And there's 6 inches of cement-treated base and 1.5 inches of hot mix. But one of the most compelling things here is it shows 4 inches of compacted road gravel under the curb. Our quality of road gravel that we're mining today is poor. It used to be excellent. We're running out of the really good natural materials. And so continuing to do that is creating that rolled effect that I showed you of the curb, where you don't have a good base material under the curb and it rolls over. What's being proposed is such a minor tweak at what we believe to be a rather insignificant cost for a 50-year street. We need to put an additional half inch of hot mix asphaltic concrete pavement. That's what you call asphalt, but for the street. And then an additional 3.5 inch layer of sub-base that goes all the way beneath the street, under the curb, and behind the curb. That's extremely significant because you get roller compacted effort on top of that 3.5 inch layer, and so your curb is going on very solid base material, whereas now that's not the case. The comment that we got from the builders group was they weren't excited about going from 1.5 inches to 2 inches. They thought that was going to increase the cost significantly. And so what we did, one of our compromises, is that we said, okay, instead of using 3.5 inches of cement-treated base, you say that's expensive, we looked at going with 3.5 inches of recycled crushed concrete. That's a readily available product. It's recycled, so environmentally, I think it has a great footprint, but also it gave us almost the same strength, so much so that we're still able to get a 50-year design life. The other thing that the development group was not excited about at all was we were proposing a 32-foot wide street. There was a lot of discussion, us, city staff, city management. We said, okay, from 1960 to the year 2000, we got by fine with 30-foot streets. Let's go back to 30-foot streets. This is just a chart showing what the current Waco criteria is, what the proposed is. And the other criteria was pre your current subdivision ordinance, and that was 1960 to 1999, I think it's 99. But anyway, we're right about there. I mean, we're 30 feet today, we were 30 feet in 1960, we're 39 feet today, and we're 40 feet in 1960. So but basically back to the basis. Another part of consternation that the development group had was we're proposing not only for the cul-de-sacs to be larger in diameter, but also for them to be concrete. So that's two separate comments, but the diameter standpoint is so that emergency vehicles and trash trucks can get around the cul-de-sac. Right now, they're not large enough for those emergency vehicles to be able to transverse around it. The deal with going from hot mix to concrete only in the cul-de-sacs is because cul-de-sacs are very high maintenance areas, because especially during the summer months when the pavement is hot, those trash trucks tend to shove that hot mix because it gets soft. So it's just a big area for reconstruction. Their issue was, they asked the question, are we solving a $100,000 problem at the cost of $1 million solution? That was what they asked. And so we did a cost comparison, and we got the numbers from a local contractor. And a current cul-de-sac with hot mix is about $51,000. Going to a reinforced concrete cul-de-sac with a larger radius is about $66,000. So it's not a $1 million solution, but it is a $15,000 solution. Okay, let's talk about the summary. And I know you're on a bind for time, so I'm moving pretty quickly. The benefits for the street and stormwater criteria, obviously to reduce flooding, but to improve the quality of your infrastructure, to enhance safety and mobility, to utilize current design methods and technology that we have, really just to follow industry standard, and then ultimately to create livable, sustainable, and maintainable development in Waco. I think one thing that's really important, though, is that not only does it reduce costs to the city and reduces the tax burden on the residents, but also I think it's more equitable because you don't have people living in inner city Waco paying to do improvements on subdivisions less than 20 years old on the perimeter and extremity of Waco. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the street and the drainage combined. I told you the drainage, we were saving almost $4,000 per lot. The streets were not. The increased cost in streets by the additional base material and the additional half inches of hot mix is $4,630. But with the savings that we're getting from our drainage criteria, the bottom right-hand number is what's important to you. We're predicting that we're going to increase the cost of a lot by $905 per lot. Now, the development community was originally very concerned that it was going to be tens of thousands of dollars, but in working over the last 3 years, we've got that down to less than $1,000. Another question, though, that came up was, what about on 60-foot lots, where if we don't have as wide a lots, what does that do to the smaller lot subdivisions? So we ran the analysis on a small lot subdivision, and it's about $784 per lot increase. And that's for the street and for the drainage criteria. So it is more, and we're not trying to hide that, but the whole deal is we need to come up with something that's equitable and feasible and reasonable for the development community, but then also it's not a tax burden for the city and for the residents. And let's go back to what I said a minute ago, that if we continue to build streets with less than a 20-year design life, that's going to be $12 billion over 50 years. And so what does that really mean? Because that number's so big, 12 billion, but that means $240 million per year that the city is going to be paying to do reconstruction on relatively new streets. So the balance is back to this. If we go to $905 increased on construction costs per lot, we're looking to save $240 million per year on reconstruction. That's a big number. And so we're coming here this evening thinking we've found that balance. And it's taken us several years to find it, but I think we're there.
Jed, I think this is a pretty reasonable approach, and I appreciate a thorough one that you've taken here. I think for all of us, we've seen the tension between the streets that need work in what we, kind of inside the loop part of Waco versus usually what you need to do is rebuild smaller roads into larger, higher capacity roads. But I think it's pretty sobering to see that subdivisions built within the last 20 years on the periphery of the city, still within the city, are going to be competing against roads that have needed repair for even longer. I mean, we know some of the city council members that have served in the last 2 decades. I mean, you know what I mean? We'd like to think of the roads that need repair as being from faceless councils way in the past, you know? So I wouldn't want someone turning around on me and being like, you had a chance to change the standards here, and we're footing the bill for it. I don't want to have that conversation 10 years from now with anybody on city council. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it seems like if we're going to have people build roads, they should be built to last so that the taxpayers don't have to foot the bill. My one question is, I saw the note on sidewalk funding. Do these proposed design standards include in subdivisions mandatory sidewalks, or is that just left to the choice of the developer?
Right, so that's going to be a question for you all for your subdivision ordinance, because that needs to be by ordinance. What we've done, we have locations and sizes and construction methods for the sidewalk. Right now, the sidewalks are required only on the collector streets. And so if those sidewalks, if the desire of the council is for those to be on all streets, and that's going to have to be an ordinance change, not a design criteria change. But we've got locations for them within the right-of-way depicted so that it doesn't interfere with utility construction, et cetera, if and when you all decide if you want to go with sidewalks on all streets.
So on that and I know we've got to go, and I apologize, just important stuff, of course. Do these design criteria set out, like, for example, sidewalk width?
Yes.
So that if an ordinance is enacted, then we look to the design standards, because it would then apply to, say, all subdivisions or whatever. At that point, it doesn't make them mandatory, but if you have them, you have to follow the design criteria.
Right, it absolutely does. For each classification of roadway, it has a corresponding sidewalk width and where they're to be located within the right-of-way. So there's been a lot of thought put into it by us and staff together, so that when you all do give us the green light, it's ready to go.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate your good work on this.
You bet.
Thankful not only for you taking the majority of the presentation to give the hardest working man in show business, Charles Least, a break today.
Admittedly, I did come late to this particular party. This one's been going on for a while.
Yeah, no, I mean that in all sincerity. I appreciate the amount of work that you've jumped in on as of late. But I really appreciate your sentiment that you mentioned earlier about the equitable approach that this brings to our road construction. I think if you look at the concentration of revenue from a tax assessment standpoint, most of that comes from the core of the city. And if we continue to allow roads to be built that need to be repaired and maintained by the city over a short span of time, we're going to continue to funnel a lot of that money to those areas outside of the core. And on top of that, it's no secret, we've discussed it at every one of our capital improvement meetings, and budget and audit for that matter, but it is much more expensive to take the very bad roads to good than it is the decent roads back to good. And so the longer that we allow the roads in the core of our city to degrade while we're fixing the roads that were built 5 years ago and are now just okay, but it's cheaper to get them back to good, the wider that gap is. So I appreciate the thought and mindset on putting together some requirements that will hopefully allow for us to, over time, accumulate funds to put towards our roads that are in worse shape now to get them back to that good condition. So I appreciate that.
You bet.
Great points, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other comments or questions?
Quick question. Jed, thank you. That was a very helpful presentation. And I appreciate you working so closely to try and get people in agreement on this. Going forward, what do you see will be the biggest thing that people are still developers and builders are still have issues with?
Well, I don't think the stormwater criteria is going to be as big of an issue if most of the developments turn out like the one did, the model that we did, where it's a lesser cost. I mean, we're not going to get away from the fact that the streets are going to be a little bit more.
Sure.
And so it's 3.5 inches more base, and it's a 1/2 inch more of hot mix on top. I mean, that's really going to be it. But I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but the AGC has been very supportive of this, and I would say there's quite a few in the Heart of Texas Builders Association that were supportive, some not as much as others, some of the developers not as much as others, but I think we're at a very professional compromise, and I don't think any of them would disagree with that right now.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just say, Jed and Charles, thanks so much for the presentation. It's a challenge for us, and I mean, this council and this city management team, we've got a lot of projects. I think we calculated $5 billion worth of projects that we're trying to get to. So it's a lot of expense, and we're all poking around on how we can address the costs of building and maintaining here. I know we've got the general fund that we take out of, we've got CIP leverage that we use, we started a street fee, we've got impact fees, utility rate, increases, but we've got to figure out a way to make these things last longer. And I like the way you were very open and transparent about communicating with the Heart of Texas Builders Association and the Association of General Contractors in our development community and coming up with these ideas and solutions. I'm supportive of moving forward with this project of taking the 20-year standard to 50 years on the streets, and I'm really I've got a lot of admiration on how you came up with reducing the stormwater fees by that amount, and still increasing the effective life fivefold. So when we come to a net, I'm not saying $900 is nothing, but when we come to that net of that number, and really the slide that I think hit everybody between the eyes like a two before was that we've got relatively new streets here in town. 20 years old, they have almost $50 million worth of repairs needed, and that's not sustainable, as we all know. Anyway, we're not voting on anything today, but appreciate the presentation, and you guys put a great package together here. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Bradley, next thing is work session 2025-009, but tell us what to do. Where do you want to go?
Let's break for a couple minutes and then meet back for executive session at 5:40.
Would we want to do that, or okay, we're going to go into exec session, do you think? Okay, 5 minutes. All right, I got one more agenda item. We will have, the next item is the council request for scheduling future agenda items. Are there any requests for those? None. There being none, we will now recess to work session and reconvene regular session for executive session as read into the record by Acting Assistant City Secretary at, what time is it? 5:33 p.m.
Hereby given that the City Council will go into executive session in accordance with the following provisions. Personnel, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, discussion of the city attorney appointment process and review and discuss candidates for city attorney. Attorney briefing, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, Amanda Butler versus City of Waco, cause number 2023-3252-5, 414th Judicial District Court. Real property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072. Attorney briefing, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071. Downtown development project being the mixed-use development of the city-owned and adjacent properties near City Hall and possible creation of a district pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 375. Real property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072. In Economic Development, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087. We're now in executive session.